Hello and welcome to Elite Rounders Poker Coaching. Today we will go over Big 44, um, which was kind of deep run. I will start it from the beginning of the tournament, so we will have overall view what to do. Also, we will use couple tools, for example, Power Equilab. If you're not familiar, there's also the free version Equilab. This I highly recommend to use if you don't already have that. Also, we will be using PokerSnowy to have a little bit better idea what to do pre-flop. I will also compare a little bit Bunker Solver to PokerSnowy. So we will look at like two different tools, basically what to defend pre-flop and stuff like that. Also, maybe I will add actually ICM because we will probably have some spots pre-flop we need to calculate or we can look at. Not exactly sure where this tournament series will go, so let's see. All right, so let's start. First hand, I late raise with around 20 bigs, so I guess it's like the latest possible. So again, some hand like a6 off. When you think about it, really doesn't play that well post flop. I mean, it looks pretty. Any ace high looks pretty, always, but it's kind of like these reversed implied odds in a way. Like you will be very often dominated by the bigger ace x and stuff. Of course, like the benefit is kind of here that it's only 20 big blinds deep, so we can kind of stack off with ace x almost every time, and it's okay in terms of game theory, I guess. But again, that's probably not something we want to do. So I decided to fold here. With some of you might be batshit uh, crazy, basically. So in this case, I did decide to fold, and when I look at this situation with PokerSnowy, it seems like we would be still calling sometimes bluff raising, for example. And monkey solution, we would have mostly a fold. So we are calling like ace five off. We're not calling ace six off. So I think it's totally reasonable fold. You don't have to defend these. Think about like a lot of these offsuit hands just play very poorly post flop. So be careful flatting these because it's not gonna gain you a lot of edge. But let's look at the hand because again, if you can gain information from the villains, this is very important. So if you're playing less tables than 15, you can probably pay attention. Maybe there's potential some bet size tells or whatever. So we see that both players played very passively with the second pair on flop, which is okay. He played passively with ace two, so he's just like check backing most of his worst ace x. But I guess what is shocking here is that he turns out to have ace deuce off, right? So does ace deuce off make our fold with ace six off worse? Definitely. I mean, again, when we look at this situation, we should have way tighter range here, like what this guy is calling. So obviously, when cutoff calls, cutoff when he calls with ace deuce off, we should be way more inclined to call with ace six off because like he's just like calling way too many hands. And of course, we would see that here right now with the stats, but I don't think I had at the time any stats. In general, people do flat fairly strong range when under the gun opens. So when you see something like this, you should take a note and you should definitely flat wider here. So yeah, definitely add a few more hands. This is actually ace deuce off is like so wide. And this guy is probably wide, like fairly wide as well. So again, you definitely want to start adding more hands. You definitely don't fold any suited, especially hands like even for three off. I think anything which can flop a straight is pretty decent. I think at least it has decent playability, especially versus this guy who we can potentially stack off if he hits ace x, for example. I think he's never folding this hand if the turn is not club, for example, or river. He's gonna call turn and river, so we can kind of double up easily versus these players. Okay, so this was like the second hand. Actually, it is kind of scary when he opens 2.5x. Again, I did not have secrets here or something. So when we look at this, okay, let's take a look. So button opens. What should we jam from small blind? Um, so it's kind of like I don't think ace-6 can be ever like a huge punt here, but without reads, like we don't exactly. I To be honest, I've never played against this player before. At this point of the tournament, it was a bit gambly to just to shove, but yes, we are pretty short. In general, I'm a little bit scared to 2.5x as well. I feel like people do tend to fold raise fold. Sorry, they tend to raise fold less when they open 2.5x. So not in love with this, but like I guess I don't think it can be a mistake really. He did fold, so this is kind of nice. So we noticed that he opened 2.5x. I guess it kind of makes sense. Again, he's just trying to deny equity from the big blind defending because under 15 big blinds, basically your equity realization becomes very good with anything. So he's just trying to give him a little bit worse price than just calling pre-flop with anything. So a bit too gambly for me, but like again, I don't think it's like huge mistakes per se. Um, but good fold. I wouldn't mind fold, especially without any reads. That's why I actually kind of hate when we see some stats here because I probably didn't have stats. So we have cool 3x open here and 3 bet. Let's see what happens. And 4x just folds. Okay, cool. So we see that this guy is capable of raise folding 30 big blinds, 3x, very good info. This guy 4x, no idea what he had. Again, we don't need to call queen 8 off here, especially with the stack size behind it. It is kind of nasty, nasty spot. Again, this kind of gets shoved on. He calls. I'm curious what he called here. A6 suited, man. That's pretty. I would not love to call that with A6 suited. Well, that's pretty. Well, when he jams Queen Jack suited, I guess it definitely becomes better. But yeah, definitely would love calling A6 suited. But I guess he's thinking it's like his top of range hand, basically. He doesn't have many better hands when he's flatting, which is probably correct. Probably doesn't trap there too much. So I guess that's why he's calling. Not much we can do here with 20 big blinds. I don't think these 4-6 suited are going to be very profitable versus under the gun. Okay. Ace Jack, he got defense with Jack 3 suited, totally standard. He's not raising flop, totally standard. He bets a little bit bigger size. Turn is check, check, check. River, should he bet with Ace Jack? I don't see what this guy would fold. I don't think he would fold deuce or 3 here, even if he bets. So I think it's kind of pointless. He goes to showdown with Ace Jack. That's pretty good. Okay, so this guy just rips like 27 picks, I guess. Okay, Ace 9 off. Again, probably a bit too gambly here. Poker's funny in a way, like it's not like these things are massive punts per se. I think he could raise, like he could just fold to this if this guy jams. If this guy shoves, easy call. Or it's not like per se punt actually because this guy is so short. Sorry, it's definitely going to be profitable, but like you can just raise fold to this guy, so no point like shoving. Foxy. A7 off. This would have been call versus one player, like we checked earlier. 10 big blinds. I mean, this is not even super happy call with ace-8 suited, but I guess you can make it, but it's going to be really, really marginal. I was kind of experimenting here. If he should, I assumed I called this actually. Okay, so what sort of range could we call here potentially? I guess that's always good to check. I think this is not going to be even close, but some king X we should be flatting. For example, PokerStars is way tighter with these. I feel like I'm just looking at Marko would flat king 6 suited, so I guess it's still way too weak to flat. Probably tough to make profit unless the guy's kind of fishy, opening way too wide range, maybe, and making huge post flop mistakes. Maybe then we can flat. That would make sense. In this case, he is a regular, so probably not going to make that many mistakes. Yeah, this hand was just too aggro. Like, especially the reads what we have. I think, especially at this point, I just prefer 3-bet folding here, or just even calling is probably not that bad. Like, I mean, we could probably even call versus his range. Just call this guy if this guy jams, probably fold, or just fold. Like, I think all the options are kind of viable. Like 3-bet folding, I don't expect him to ever shove versus ace-x, so it's kind of cool hand to 3-bet fold in a way. But yeah, it definitely seems like too marginal. It's too marginal shove. Again, this is shove if we think he's way out of line. We did see him open 2.5x from the button. That doesn't really mean anything at this point. So again, seems like way too much gamble here. So this would be maybe fine as a 3-bet fold. Like if you want to play tricky, then call off this guy, fold to his 4-bet. I think that's fine because like he's just gonna jam the better ace-x, and yeah, he's just going to jam all his better hands and fold the worst basically. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool hand to do that with. But again, that's mostly if you want to get tricky here. But yeah, maybe it's just better to just fold. But we go all in. To be honest, later on we noticed that this is a good play, but like I was definitely taking way too wide approach, definitely without like reasonable reads. So he bets 10 on turn, which is really interesting. That's funny. That's really interesting. I would assume the 10 is very high frequency. Check back there. Is 4 pretty unlucky. So we are trying to get some overall feel for the field here. So he calls, flop he bets 50%, turn is jack, he bets big, he folds. Okay. Okay, so we try to be a little bit tricky here. This stack size, I'm probably folding everything. Yes, this would be like super marginal, maybe call max, but again, people don't really shove wide versus this position. We want to raise some hand as a tricky thing. Be open, we get called by this guy. I decided to check. I don't know why. I guess I felt like I always have like the stack pot ratio is in a way like I can always just bet turn and shove river, and maybe to him it will look more fishy in a way that he would just call maybe second pair or potentially something worse, or he would start bluffing, which I could easily take check call, or calls 3 streets. So I wasn't really too worried to check the flop. It seems like kind of flop which doesn't hit too many things. So I guess I felt like he has so many hands he can just go crazy here just for fun. Maybe he puts me on a kings, queens, jacks, tries to barrel me off or something. But yeah, I did feel like he's just gonna fold so often when I bet here. So maybe I tried to be a little bit tricky, but he might be type of guy who just calls a lot pre-flop and he's not aggressive post-flop. So that's not a guy you really want to, try to make bluff, right? He's not bluffing, so it's kind of pointless. So we have a shove, then 7 off. Damn, can gamble there. So king 9 off. This is kind of interesting. So definitely hand like this. I think you can do a lot of things. I mean, again, shoving from small blind is never a mistake. Again, shoving from small blind is kind of like we can always do that, but it's going to be profitable. Like if you're afraid to play against somebody, you should probably just shove. It's going to be more profitable than folding or calling and playing post flop if you think you're not good enough post flop. So again, if you're worried about some opponents, just play more like all in or fold strategy. Again, if you think he's like way too good for you, just play tighter and just shove most of your hands. He's probably gonna play suboptimal to that because he doesn't want to gamble against you. So again, if you have villain who's good, yeah, you can use that strategy. It's like it's nothing wrong with that, right? Um, it just sucks when they call, probably then you're more crushed, but you're definitely making profit shoving these. But again, this hand would be kind of cool to raise fold because again, he's probably not going to jam too many worst king X as a shove, and he's just going to call the worst. So I think this should be perfect raise fold. He happens to jam. We can't really call with king nine off. It is kind of close though. It is king 10 off. Will feel kind of bad limp folding, but yeah, it's actually interesting. King 10. What do you do with king 10 off? Yeah, it's pretty interesting hand. So this is very interesting because ace 10. If everybody was 20 big blinds, I think this is raise call because they will be shoving versus ace x for sure. I think. Like ace 2 suited, like even ace 9 off against me, especially. I usually have fairly loose image, so people do reshove a bit wider against me, at least regulars. We have two regulars and one random guy. Versus the random guy, I should probably fold actually. But when this guy ships, it's a little bit different. Like, as you can see, like the stack size, he's not shoving effective 20. He's shoving like whatever this is, what, 35, whatever it is. He's like he's fine shoving 35, so this has to be like, well, he could still jam any pocket against me, which sucks. But yes, it's not a great hand, but I think this hand is going to be more like towards ace jack off, ace queen off, ace king off, and then some better pockets, maybe like sixes, sevens, eights, nines. So in a best case scenario, I think I'm flipping. Maybe he can have king queen suited, king jack suited, but that's about it. I think I'm pretty happy folding here because of that. If this guy was 20 big blinds, I think we would need to pretty much snap call this against this guy, this villain. Um, but now I just decided to fold. It really sucks. Folding really sucks. I hate that, but I don't think we can do too much else there. We could also consider limp shoving there, which is totally fine. Versus this guy, I definitely felt like he was opening quite a lot. I was considering like 3-bet bluffing this hand, but like again, the problem is like bluffing from this early position. You just have so many players behind you. It's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 players still behind. So what are the chances that somebody doesn't have like a really good hand? That's very high possibility that somebody has a great hand. So again, I think folding is fine. What should we be? That's another question. Like, what should we play here if somebody opens under the gun? Uh, okay, so this is, so we could use like small size or call everything. So if you want to use or shove, but if you want to use like linear range, you could 3-bet like everything pretty much. Just call king queen, king jack. But again, keep in mind that PokerStars, for example, plays GPV in a sense that it doesn't have ICM. It doesn't think about busting the tournament. This bad thing. It's just playing for the 20 big blinds. So it's a little bit different strategy. So that's always good to keep in mind. But yeah, so it looks like versus under the gun raise, we should just fold king queen, and that seems like totally reasonable. I don't see like too much edge like getting involved here. So king queen off, I think it's fine hand to fold. No worries there. This is also 9 max table. We are looking at here. I think this is 8 max anyway. So yeah, we just fold. Shame, shame, shame. But again, if someone's opening too wide range, maybe I would consider a 3-bet there. What is too wide opening range? I guess he would need to open more than 16% at least. Maybe if he opens 20, it's just going to be so tough for him to like protect his range when he's opening too many hands there. If he's opening 22, 25, whatever percent, it's very tough to just protect your range. I think names. This is actually interesting, especially when this guy calls. I know PT, he's a bit tighter player. I think he's not going to be flattening here too much or shoving. So I think it makes more attractive for us to call. And this guy could have ace deuce off. So I think this makes this call pretty profitable. So I'm kind of happy to call here, to be honest. Turn is queen, which is kind of interesting. So we can definitely bet fold turn because if they jam, it's probably going to be either better throw or some 10x. I don't think anything else is shoving here really. It's only 10x. King queen. I don't even know if king queen is shoving. Uh, oh, ace jack. Of course, straights are shoving. So it's more like if you bet here they jam, it's just going to be straight. Better throw. That's it. I think. But yeah, so it's kind of like I decided to go 1,600. I think that's reasonable size. You could make a case for just betting smaller, but I felt like at least if they call this size, they have to have like king or queen, and we can probably shut down on river unless we hit the diamond. So both fold, which is the best case scenario. I'm probably not bluffing river anyway. Because I'm not really in business trying to make them fold like king queen trips, especially when they call the turn or they have some most likely. Well, maybe they have some diamond throws they might call and fold, but like again, it's kind of more small part of their range. I feel like. Of course, if we hit our throw, we kind of have to jam, which sucks because they also have those traps. Again, pocket fours. In terms of like playing this, I don't think you have any other option but to go all in. Again, like solvers are not like super happy shoving something like this, but like I feel like population usually overfolds versus shove. So that's first of all the good thing. But second is that the playability sucks. If I open, I don't even want to call anybody really. I mean, I would have to. Basically, I have to call as well. That's why it sucks. But I think like over shoving just is just so profitable. They're never calling like optimal range. Um, let's say so we have here like 18 big blinds. So if we look at it like purely from let's take this has 8 players, right? This table. Oh, this had 9. Oh, sorry. Bad calculation. So cut off. We have 18, and let's say, well, this guy is shorter too, so it's 13,000. Let's say these guys have 18 too. But again, that changes a little bit. So let's say we shove. What should these guys call? So I think the first thing, I'm just looking at the GPV. This is still kind of far from the money. I don't think it's like close to money. So you can see that we could jam. What can we jam here? You can see that we're making 0.85 big blinds per push, which is pretty reasonable. But again, we need to think about what range they're calling. Are they calling pocket fours? Well, no. Are they calling ace 8 off, ace 9 off, probably not, king queen off? I don't think they ever call those. I think it's going to be something like this guy calling. I think he might even fold that. King queen suited, I think it's going to be something like this, and small blind calls something like this. He might call fives, but again, I think it's going to be something like this. So I think people call always like a bit tighter than what I think especially those hands will be folded. Maybe this guy, let's give him call. So you can see that actually, sorry, I was going to say turn, but this is cut off. Cut off shoving is in general pretty profitable. You can see that again, it's not like it's mistake to jam the ace 9 off like we saw in the earlier hand, this guy ripping button 27 big blinds with ace 9 off. It's not like it's a mistake, but is it necessary? Probably not. In this case, because our option is not that comfortable. Like, do we want to raise call any of these guys really? Not really. Maybe want to do that with sixes plus or sevens because they can rip all the worst pairs, but they can't call a shove with those. So then it becomes more attractive, right? But again, in this case, the pocket fours, we are making 0.9 big blinds per hand, which is excellent. So again, that's like we are making 90 big blinds in 100 hands, right? That doesn't sound so little. That's like you would make uh, basically your stack size. If you would be playing 100 big blinds, right, you would make one stack out of. If you repeat this spot 100 times, you would make 90 big blinds. That's pretty damn reasonable. So again, but as you can see, we can go extremely wide. But like maybe you don't want to go. You basically never want to go this wide because remember that tournaments are still not GPV. If we wouldn't have to think about GPV, sure you could jam these, but like again, also keep in mind that if they happen to call bit wider, some of these hands will turn into a fold and you're making bad shove. But basically, like fours will never be bad, even if they call wide, I think. So that's why it's kind of safe hand to shove. But okay, this is kind of standard, but like still good knowledge for some. But as you can see, like fours play very well, basically same as king queen off, king jack suited, king 10 suited, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited. So actually these would be kind of attractive hands to shove to jack 10 suited, queen 10 suited, king 10 suited, especially. We can actually make fold better king queen and stuff like that, king jack off, king jack suited. So those hands would be kind of attractive to shove to even these. But yeah, especially, but this is mostly in a spot where you feel like the people behind you are very aggressive, like potentially in this spot. So just yeah, so we decide to shove. They fold. Shame. No gambling here. Can okay. So I decided to raise a little bit bigger because the small blind is very short. So giving him a little bit worse price. And also he's actually very call happy, this guy, so maybe we should raise even bigger. So he shoves, which is nice after this guy flats. Okay, what is he shoving? Pocket tens. So again, usually, especially like recreational players are fairly tight from the big blind. I think it's good to keep in mind. This guy ships. 3-8 suited. I think it's call. Calling any suited hand, obviously. So we're just cut off, but now we are a bit wider. Bit wider. I mean, we are a bit deeper stacks. We are roughly 30 big blinds, so I'm just gonna take it here. So he opens min raise. What should we defend? So around this sort of range, if he's opening like optimal ranges. Again, we didn't really have too much reads on him, other than I think he was from Sweden. Our neighbor, Finnish neighbor, Finland's neighbor. I think, if I forgot your country, I'm sorry. I think he was Swedish, but either way, again here we could call a range like this. It's reasonable. I'm trying to compare with Munker. Again, these shoot. So we have some. It's very similar ranges. Munger would fall like 10-5 off, for example, 10-4 off. But like again, it's actually very similar. Like there's no big difference whatever you use, PokerSnowy or Munger, basically. Uh, the biggest difference is actually 3-bet ranges, I feel like. Flatting preflop is kind of similar. But again, I think the biggest difference is that Munger will show you like more accurately what is the folding point. PokerSnowy is more like general. We don't know how big plus these hands are. That's why we are flatting, but they are probably very marginal. Again, would it be a mistake to just fold these, I think, especially when you lack information. When you lack information, go a bit tighter, right? Because you don't know what the hell the other guy is doing. Okay, so 3-8 suited. So again, this is kind of interesting spot. I was thinking like, is this type of hand we should check raise here? So but when we face like half pot bet here, I think it becomes less attractive to check raise. So let's, sorry, too fast. Too fast, hombre. 8-3, so we could have like 8-4. I don't really see 8-3. So versus half pot, we don't really check raise this. But again, if he would bet here like typical small size, maybe we could like actually check raise here more. Maybe 3-8 would be then re-raise more. Oh, actually even less. I'm kind of surprised that it's not really used as a check raise at all. I was thinking maybe it would be. But anyway, I decided to call. The turn is king. So I guess the question could be here like, should we call the turn facing this bet size? So he bets like 40%. Yeah, okay. Are we supposed to call here 8-3 suited still? So 8-3. 8-3 we should raise like a small size, which is really funny. Again, I decide to fold. I decide to fold. It's probably going to be fairly marginal fold, I guess. Actually, in terms of like this turn bet, so he's probably going to battle this very high frequency. So it kind of makes sense to have some bluffs from especially these flush draws. So it is kind of cool spot that he's probably going to bet this turn very high frequency. And he probably has a lot of folds when we shove, right? He's just going to call us with ace x. He's probably bet folding king x, right? If he's bet folding, he probably checks back those. Can't call ace deuce off. What happened here? So 10 big blinds with king 8 off, definitely wider. King 8 off. What would be optimal? Let's look at that. GPV is probably going to be close. Yeah, so it would have been as range, but again, he's probably right that people will be overfolding, like we discussed. So, I mean, they're probably folding more than this, what I'm giving. They're definitely folding more than this. So again, I think his jam actually becomes profitable here based on this. So again, versus population, I think we can definitely wider. It's totally perfect. Okay, it's calculating for so long. Why are you calculating so long? Okay, so you can see that it becomes kind of nice profitable spot in the end. Nobody's really calling optimal ranges per se. If it's not on bubble, we can shove wider. So again, still something to keep in mind. He calls, he bets. Queen 10. So he decides to bet small size on turn with the Queen 10. Okay. And he doesn't barrel river, which makes sense. There's not too much value. You could check back too. So he bets half pot, roughly. Here we call, I don't think Queen 9, sorry, 6-9 is ever raised here. We flop 2 pair, which is nice. He bets half pot, we jam. Well, I guess like I wouldn't hate just calling and calling river, but actually based on the last hand, he's more likely to just bet this size with queen 10 and check back the river, for example. Most likely he won't be shoving queen 10, for example. Even queen jack, is he shoving like for valid queen jack? Then you have to consider like if he's check backing those, it's kind of bad. Uh, I guess versus guy who's just going to shove very, very wide for value. I think I would like more calling. And if they're gonna bluff every run out too, I think this guy is probably not the guy who's going to maybe bluff every run out. So I feel like Sami might be better option in that case. So he did have kings. We got lucky. And that's about it. That's our first video, first start of the tournament. But yeah, I felt like pretty interesting hands, and this is again like more overall view of the game because I'm looking at also the population a little bit. But I think this is a very important part of poker. So I hope you enjoyed, and you will see more in the part 2. Enjoy.